Welcome to Treasure Valley Podcast. I am Chuck. Today's episode is brought to you by LowerGentry Studios. Here at LowerGentry Studios, we create thought-provoking content with integrity, and we enjoy every aspect because we are hedonists. You can go to www.lowergentrystudios.com to check out all of our original content, which includes 2 feature films, a web series, and this podcast, of course. Back episodes and future episodes if you check it in the future. So, thank you for joining us today. Us, as in a collective us. We have Zoe and Elliot, my regular co-hosts.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Thanks for coming
Zoe
in.
hasn't been on in a while. And actually, I haven't been on in a while either. Last week we had Sunblood Stories, and then the week before that we had Sunblood Stories that I wasn't allowed to be on.
No, there weren't enough places at the table. So.
No, don't say it like that. We know that it was a very different conversation before the band came on.
That Sunblood Stories was awesome. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, I would highly recommend. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be here, but after watching it, it was really well done. Good job, guys.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I mean, mostly good job to the band because it's really easy to look awesome recording a really awesome band.
That's
and I don't
fair.
think anybody really thought like, wow, that was amazing, like filming. It was mostly like, that band is freaking sweet.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I saw them at Treefort last year, and they blew me away live, so I was really impressed that there was a comparable, if not better, performance on the camera.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
Yeah, for sure. And they're actually I'm gonna go check them out again.
Oh
yeah,
be
they're
at
coming up.
Treefort again?
No. I mean, I'm gonna go see them on December 21st.
Yeah, they're playing on Saturday, December 21st.
Where?
At the Neurolux.
Yeah.
With a couple of other cool bands that I can't remember the name of right now off the top of my head.
Dang.
But whatever.
I think they're
They
headlining.
didn't pay us for advertising, so I'm not even gonna advertise the show really.
Mm-hmm.
So what?
I mean, other than that, Sunblood Stories is going to be at the Neurolux, and it's probably going to open at about 7:30, and the show's going to start at 8:30, and it's I think $8 to get in advance, and then $10 at the door.
Dang, you know
Are
some
they
serious
paying you,
information.
sponsor?
No, but we have a mutually beneficial situation to where if people watch Sunblood Stories stuff, then they're watching our podcast.
Yeah. So always
Two-way
go
street.
It's
after
trickery.
Give and get,
We're scratching
baby.
backs.
All
We're
right.
just a big
Ooh.
back scratch situation.
Oh my God. Okay, so what makes today special?
Today is special because we have a special guest, a chef, Chef Jacques.
I love chef.
He's going to give us a trick about cooking a steak. So we're going to cut to him right now.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome to Cooking with Chef Jacques. Today, I teach you the secret to the perfect beef steak. First, you put on the pepper. And then, you let it rest. Hush, little beef steak, don't you cry. Chef Jacques is going to let you rest a bit.
Okay, that was that was good.
Thank you,
all
Jacques.
We need to make
thanks.
sure we'll have to check in later and see what the next step is because I'm excited.
For sure.
But
All
now
right.
that we know the
I need
key, I
more.
think we're good. But we'll find out later.
Okay, are we ready? Are we ready to do a movie review?
Yeah, we're going to talk about a movie, so let's do it.
Okay, we have a jingle. Here it comes.
It's a Treasure Valley Podcast movie review.
All right. A good thing I wear my earplugs underneath my headphones.
Was
Yeah.
that a little loud for you?
Yeah, it was a little
The
loud
two
for
old
me.
men on the side had their headphones out away from their face, and
Yeah,
here
we're blasting,
I am jamming.
we're blasting that theme song today.
I liked it.
So
Yeah.
we need to talk about the talk of Netflix.
The talk of Netflix, which is
The new
Marriage
Martin?
story with Adam Driver.
Wait, I thought we were talking about
I'm just
Martin
kidding.
Scorsese. Okay.
I haven't watched that movie yet.
Ooh.
Although that movie's supposed to be pretty good. I'm going to watch it this coming weekend or maybe at some juncture.
So we're talking about The Irishman, though. Martin Scorsese's new flickety flick.
Yeah, it's a major flick.
Yeah, major
Big
one.
flick.
It was it's really, really long.
Three and a half hours?
Yeah,
Or
3.5. No, it's 3.5 hours.
3.5
Yeah.
hours.
Ken Burns narrates,
Yep.
which I
Lots
thought
of-
he did a really good job narrating that movie.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't
Oh,
realize how old he
wait,
got or
for
how many
those-
people he killed.
For
Yeah.
those of you who have not seen The Irishman yet, you're going to want to click onto this and go watch it because spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Or if
spoiler
you
alert.
want to see the 20-minute rendition of it, then instead of sitting through 3.5 hours, you
Yeah.
can watch the rest of this.
Save
and then
yourself 3 hours and 10 minutes and just watch this.
Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
Cliff Notes.
That's
So
Yeah.
first,
That's how I read Moby Dick.
Valid.
So-
Valid.
I'm just kidding. I never read the Cliff Notes.
yeah.
of Moby
Oh
Dick.
no, I just saw the 20-minute podcast. Who wants to go first?
I think. Do you want me to go first? I can go first.
We're both
I'm-
looking at you, Elliot.
Okay. I guess I need to have like a preamble here, which is Martin Scorsese is like probably my favorite American director. Definitely my favorite living director. And then so I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a really, really, really cool movie. And I really, really, really enjoyed it, especially in the way that he differentiated it from his other like big like gangster epics like Goodfellas or Casino or even like The Wolf of Wall Street, which those movies were always trying to, I guess they were kind of like threading this needle between glorifying like the life of these like hardened criminals, and then so you're never quite sure whether it was like glorifying their behavior or like or condemning it. Where this one was like more like you could tell it was definitely trying to condemn it without it being too heavy-handed. So I don't know, I liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked it a lot. It's probably my favorite movie that I've seen this year, I would have to say.
I mean,
Wow.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I agree with the fact that the movie was inherently condemning the gangster life. For me, it transcended that, and it took this world that's really seems out there and made it really relatable. And I think it condemned something innately human and not just reserved for gangsters. I think that's what set it apart.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I understand. Yeah, I get
What do you guys think about the length?
I thought the length was fine. I mean, I thought it was cool, and I hadn't seen a movie. I guess I hadn't like sat down. I watched the whole thing in one sitting. We both did in one sitting.
That's a lie. So what happened was we sat down and we watched most of it in one setting, but in the beginning, like 15
we got interrupted.
minutes, you were doing laundry. He started folding laundry. I took a nap. So I'm just giving.
I mean, it was in one.
Preface.
It was in one evening.
It was overall about 4 hours we spent watching this movie.
Oh,
so
dang.
we did not watch it all the way
Well,
through.
okay. Well, I mean, it was still like we took like a half-hour break for me to finish laundry and then you to take a nap, and that was within like the first like 25 minutes though or something.
Like 15, yeah.
Yeah,
it
exactly. It
Was
was
in the
really
very
so.
beginning.
Basically, we were really engaged with that movie
Yeah.
for over 3 hours, and I hadn't done that in my living room in a really long time. Just sat and like watched one story, and I
Yeah.
like the way like the act structures worked. Like you don't get introduced to Jimmy Hoffa until like an hour and
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes into it. You kind of forget that Al Pacino's in it for like a long period of time.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I just thought it was really awesome. I thought the acting was great, the writing was great. The only thing that was really shitty about it was that stupid visual effects.
Oh, the
visual
de-aging.
effects. The de-aging was really, really crappy.
I did not have a problem at all with the visual effects. In fact, I told you right after we finished watching it, I thought to myself, who in the world is that amazing makeup artist? Because that was flawless. You can't even see any of the makeup lines. Come to find out, was not makeup, was CGI, but it wasn't distracting for me at all. But I think I have a higher suspension of disbelief than you, just as a caveat.
Well, I mean, it only bothered me in the. Sorry, did I just interrupt you? Or were you going to ask Chuck a question? One more thing about this, just one more opinion. But like, I think the big thing was like at the very beginning, it was like kind of this really when they did that first flashback with Joe Pesci and like Robert De Niro, and you're looking at Robert De Niro and you're like, what age is he supposed to be? And then they reference him in his 30s, and I'm like, that's not the right age. He like walks like an 80-year-old man. He speaks like an 80-year-old man. He like does anything physical like an 80-year-old man. Like anytime he shoots somebody, it's just like always like with like the half-crooked arm like kind of slightly bent over. At one point when he was like running towards the river, I was like worried for him that he might trip and fall and like break his hip. I'm like, oh man.
Okay, but this is a tale that took place over 50 years. What do you expect them to go all friggin' Richard or Linklater on them and follow an old man for 50 years?
I mean, like obviously, like the Godfather Part 2, they just cast a different actor when they're 30.
I had no problem with that. In fact, I thought it was more artful than casting another actor.
Well, I mean, you could like maybe like argue thematically that you always remember yourself looking different or looking like more akin to what you look like now. So maybe if this is a story of memory of him looking back on himself, then he obviously would look older because he's still like trying to marriage like the man looking at himself in the mirror with the memories of himself doing things in the past. So I guess you could argue that thematically it works.
So I guess it wasn't a big deal.
I mean,
And I was right.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
Chuck, what did you think? We're married. So,
I thought it was pretty good.
did you think the length was too much?
Oh, no,
You brought that up.
I was just curious because it's huge. It's enormously long. But the thing is, if you're not sitting in a theater, it's okay. I watched it over 2 separate days. I did an hour and a half, and then I did 2 hours, and that was fine for me. I got right back into it. I rewound it a little bit to remember what Jimmy Hoffa was up to.
You were drinking beer though for the first sitting, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
It's not a drinking beer.
You can't drink beer after my third. I was like, no, I think I'm gonna wait and then finish this another time. And so I came back to it, and I was like, oh yeah, that was good because you need to be on point. You need to be following closely with what's going on because there's a lot of subtle details in that film that are really well done, especially the whole thing is to me was about the fact that this dude committed so heavily to something that he was unwilling to give it up ever, to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah.
And it's just that is how people are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it was definitely a tale of conformity through the lens of organized crime, which I thought was really interesting because he starts by talking about his military background and how he could do well in the military because he knew how to say yes and just do it. And that's what made him successful at organized crime.
Yeah.
And then in the end, he's just left empty-handed because just saying yes doesn't provide any wealth in life.
No, and it was interesting that he caught a lot of flack about not having enough diversity in the role or in the film in general. I don't know if you read any articles about that.
Oh yeah, about
I
that.
haven't
Yeah.
yet.
So
Oh yeah, Chance, you were complaining on Facebook about how Anna Paquin doesn't talk enough in it, but I thought that was actually an artful move.
To me,
the daughter that doesn't speak and just like kind of condemns him with her eyes the entire time, like just pops up every once in a while. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. And but the thing, that part, so the scene I thought was one of the most amazing scenes in the whole movie was when they were was at the award dinner and how all of that stuff started to unfold with Jimmy Hoffa and everyone, and it was kind of like through a different perspective the entire time. And it would zoom in and you'd listen to one conversation and then you'd be watching people interact, and it was very nebulous, but it still came together super well. That was one of the most interesting scenes I've seen in film in a really, really long time. It was really unique and very different.
Yeah.
And then, I just thought it was really well done, and that's the loneliness throughout the whole thing. Like he's just kind of this island.
Yeah. Just like saying, just kind of doing his job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what he's committed to, and he's not willing to give up on that. He's hoping for something to change, but he's not going to actually adjust himself in any way.
Well, yeah, and I think part of the comment of the character was that he doesn't actually have the capacity for self-reflection either.
No,
because I think
Right.
like the second to the last scene of the movie is him with the priest, and the priest like says, "So do you feel bad about it?" And he's like, "Well, maybe like the fact that I'm here kind of shows that I kind of feel bad."
Oh yeah.
And then he's like, "Well, sometimes maybe we'll just pray, and then it'll be like a prayer of the will or something, and not really a prayer of feeling."
Feel sorry. Just say you're sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but back to the what's the actress's name again?
Anna Paquin.
Anna Paquin's stoic performance, and I did read an article about how it was I think it was like sexist type angle on her lack of dialogue. And I just would like to point out that as a human being and as a performer, silence is so powerful.
Breakfast scene.
The breakfast scene.
Do you remember the breakfast scene?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing. I don't think anything was said at the breakfast scene when the news report came out or whatever, and he was.
Oh yeah, they're sitting in the living room.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, they're sitting in the living room talking about Jimmy Hoffa Jimmy Hoffa.
No, the
missing.
scene before that. There was a breakfast scene though where he was sitting eating breakfast in the kitchen.
And I think the TV was playing the story.
Yeah, and he just sat there, and then Anna Paquin was like staring at De Niro, and nothing was said. And it was just like really intense, and he just got up and left.
I remember that being in the living room for some reason. It wasn't breakfast.
Either
way, yeah.
It was 3.5 hours. There were a lot of scenes.
A lot of ins and outs.
You got to sit down and watch it a second time to be able to give it a very thorough review, but there's just not enough hours in the week.
Well, and I think there's this common misconception in our society nowadays where we think that we have to fill in the silence with something, and a lot of movies and stories and people take this and make it a reality, and I think it's a mistake because there is so much that is unsaid, and that can be just as powerful, if not more powerful.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like is a part that doesn't have lines, is that somehow like disenfranchising for an actor? Or
No, honestly, I had one acting role where I didn't have any lines, but I was on stage for the entire play.
Yeah.
And I will say, as an actor, that was the most challenging role I've ever had to do, because everything I had to communicate, I had to do through nonverbal communication. And when you're not told what to say, it's just like removing a crutch. So, I mean, from my personal perspective, I thought it was a huge challenge that she, of course, rose to, as she would do.
All right.
And
I think that's cool.
It.
It opens up a lot for actors too, if they're not.
Yeah.
And then
And then
especially, but his, Scorsese's movies obviously always have a good script.
Yeah.
But if you're working with a really crappy script, sometimes it's best just to cut stuff.
Yeah. Well, actually, I read it in the defense because they were calling Scorsese in this interview. They were kind of alluding to the fact that he's sexist or something. Mm-hmm. So then he started off with like, well, if I'm sexist, I wouldn't have made like The Age of Innocence, and that has great female parts in it, and like Alice doesn't live here anymore. And he like kind of defended himself. And then he just said, well, we were looking at the script, and then I realized that all of the dialogue, because she actually had a bunch of dialogue when they hired her, and then all the dialogue he's found out was more or less superfluous. Mm-hmm. So it's just like it just ended up being better if we just cut all of her dialogue out and the scenes played better. So
it's a tricky call.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a good call though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a good, great movie.
Yeah, go. How many? What are we rating? How are we reviewing movies again?
Let's do it. How many?
Was it?
Let's do how many? Well, no, we gotta do it towards the actual movie though. So how many uncanny valleys?
What?
Too many's bad, right?
Yeah.
How many uncanny valleys? So 0 is a perfect score, and then 5 uncanny valleys is a terrible score.
Is a terrible
Wait,
score.
what's an uncanny valley?
Uncanny valley is this idea in visual effects where if you make it look too human, then
all of a sudden it
looks really weird.
Yeah.
Like sex dolls, when they started making them and they started to get too realistic, it almost looked like creepy, like a dead body.
Yeah.
And so people were like, it's like attractive to a certain point, and then it just like dips and gets creepy, and then as soon as it's a human being, it's natural again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're
What's
not
it
averse
called?
to it.
Uncanny valley?
Yeah, so I'm going to give it 1 uncanny valley out of 5.
I'm gonna give it 1.
I'm
as
going to
well.
give it 0 uncanny valleys.
Oh, because you didn't see the uncanny valley in the visual effects.
No, I thought it was great. 0 uncanny valleys. Here.
Dang.
Well, we'll get you a new glasses prescription. So
Right on. Actually, we should probably check to see what the next step on the steak is.
oh yeah,
Let's check in with Jock.
Yes.
let's take it.
If you want your beefsteak to taste so good, you let it rest like this beefsteak rest.
All right. Well,
All right, well,
what a great chef.
That was enlightening.
We'll have to go in next week. Maybe he'll have some more pointers for us next week on this
Right.
podcast. Should we end with a joke from a hat?
Let's do it.
Take a joke from a hat. When you read it, I'll bet that you make someone laugh. It's a joke from a hat.
Alrighty. This week's hat.
You're gonna read it, right? You're gonna do it, right? Zoe?
There's the ad. I'm covering it up. Zoe, would you like to take a joke from a hat and read it to us?
Why was the wool beanie so quiet at the hat bash? It was feeling sheepish.
Ooh. That was a bad one.
I like that one.
All
At least
righty.
that one made sense.
Well, thank you for joining us this week on Treasure Valley Podcast. Be sure to visit www.lowergentrystudios.com to catch back episodes of this podcast, including live music, which we are now kicking out on a semi-regular basis. But our first episode came out last week with Sunblood Stories. We also have 2 feature films and a web series entitled Canyon County. Thanks for joining us.
Peace.